The year was 2014 in the Hill East section of Washington, D.C. An 8-year-old Relisha Rudd, along with her mother, Shamika Young, stepfather Antonio Wheeler, and 3 brothers were residing in a now-closed family shelter known as D.C. General Shelter. The shelter itself had once been a hospital until 2001 and shortly after became a family shelter that housed around 270 families. For years, D.C. General was known for its lack of maintenance and overall poor conditions. As such, Relisha, who would often stay with other family members, would pretend to be sick to avoid going home, which speaks volumes of the conditions she lived in. While there was no evidence of domestic abuse, several complaints had been filed to the Department of Children's Services due to the conditions of Shamika Young's children. Staff at Relisha's school, Payne Elementary, were all well aware of the conditions Relisha lived in, as she would often come to school hungry, tired, and unkept. One of Relisha's teachers and a cheerleading coach took to cleaning and providing her with fresh clothing and food when she came to school and would eventually be some of the first to bring attention to Relisha's disappearance. It all began shortly after winter break had ended in 2014. Relisha had been attending school regularly up until Wednesday, February 26, and the teachers who'd taken care of her grew increasingly worried with each absence. A social worker from Payne Elementary reached out to Shamika Young due to concerns of neglect and questioned the whereabouts of Relisha. Shamika explained Relisha had fallen ill and was under the care of a Dr. Tatum, who worked for D.C. General Shelter. Shamika's mother, Melissa Young, would even provide a doctor's note, to which the social worker would contact Dr. Tatum and request written confirmation of Relisha's condition and need to be absent. Tatum agreed and arranged to meet the social worker at the shelter. March 19th, the day of the meeting with Dr. Tatum, had come, and the only known sighting of Relisha had been on her mother's Instagram account. On March 1st, Relisha can be seen in the video, but as Instagram allows users to post saved videos, there is no way to confirm when the video was recorded. By now, it'd been 3 weeks since Relisha was last seen at her school. The social worker made their way to D.C. General Shelter and requested to see Dr. Tatum. Puzzled, staff would inform the worker that the only Tatum that worked there was a janitor by the name of Khalil Tatum, and he'd left work early that day due to personal reasons. As it turned out, the doctor's note presented by Shamika Young's mother was fake, and even worse, Khalil Tatum had become unreachable. Authorities were immediately alerted. An Amber Alert was sent out, and the search for Relisha Rudd would begin weeks after she'd last been seen, and Khalil Tatum was now a suspect. Known as a stellar worker and well-mannered man, Khalil Tatum was in fact a shelter janitor. While he never had disciplinary issues, he was known to be especially nice to young girls, often giving them small gifts and even money. One parent reports having to return a $20 bill to Tatum because he'd given it to her young daughter who was under the age of 10. According to co-workers and acquaintances, Tatum was well-groomed and always dressed in expensive-looking clothing and jewelry. When news of Relisha's disappearance made headlines, many were shocked to learn he was a janitor, as he would often tell people he worked for the city. Tatum befriended Shamika Young long before she moved into the shelter. Khalil Tatum had been deemed Relisha's godfather, and Shamika Young would often allow her to stay with Tatum, who would shower Relisha in gifts such as nail paintings, a tablet, and new clothing. Despite a shelter policy which prohibited staff from taking children from the facility, Young would allow Relisha to stay at Tatum's house with his wife, Andrea Tatum. According to witness reports by Tatum's landlord, there was nothing suspicious from what he could tell. Relisha seemed comfortable and would often be seen playing in his front yard. A family member of Tatum says he treated Relisha like his own daughter. Many good things could be said about Khalil, but he also had a past that wasn't too far behind him. Having served a total of 17 years in prison for charges such as breaking and entering, larceny, and burglary, Khalil Tatum was a felon, and Shamika Young reporting her 8-year-old daughter was last seen with this man only made the situation more urgent. All efforts in contacting Khalil Tatum were proving ineffective, but on the day after Relisha had been reported missing, March 20th, the body of a 51-year-old Andrea Tatum was discovered laying face down in the Red Roof Inn Hotel in Washington, D.C. She'd been shot once in the head, presumably by Khalil Tatum. While the reason is unknown, it should be noted that the couple was in the process of getting a divorce, a mutual agreement that had been set in motion earlier that year. CCTV footage would reveal the Tatums checked into the Red Room Inn on the afternoon of March 19th, the day Khalil was supposed to meet the social worker at the shelter. Relisha was not with them. However, the couple was accompanied by 3 other people, one of whom came back to pick up Khalil Tatum around 5:40 a.m. on March 20th. This person reports seeing Andrea laying on the bed, but Khalil would not allow him inside the hotel room. This person would then drive Khalil to a train station, where Tatum would last be seen. Between March 19th and 20th, disturbing footage of Tatum was discovered. On March 26, 2014, the day Relisha stopped showing up at school, CCTV records Tatum at a Holiday Inn Express in Northeast Washington entering a hotel room accompanied by Relisha Rudd. She appears to be at ease as they walk the halls in search of their hotel room before finally entering. More footage of Tatum and Relisha would be discovered at a Days Inn, but as the investigation is ongoing, this footage has not been made public. In one officer's account of the footage, Relisha and Tatum are seen entering a room, but only Tatum is seen leaving. No further information was given. Like the Holiday Inn they'd stayed in before, some of the rooms in the Days Inn served a secondary function as a homeless shelter. One resident reports having seen Tatum and Relisha at a homeless center near the Days Inn. Across the street from the center was a Home Depot. Tatum would eventually go to the hardware store and purchase a box of black 42-gallon, contractor-sized plastic bags, a shovel, and a substance called lye, which is a base that can be used to create a chemical compound that can dissolve the human body in a matter of hours. He then spent time in the Aquatic Gardens, a section of Kenilworth Park, not too far from the hotel. It is because of these actions that the park would become a primary focus of investigation, and search parties would cover the park for days. Divers and cadaver dogs were brought in early on, suggesting the police believed they were looking for a dead body and possibly underwater. It was clear Relisha had been with Tatum until at least March 2nd, and Shamika Young testifies she had no idea why Khalil would take Relisha and insists she had no involvement with her disappearance, as does Antonia Wheeler. Having now made it to the FBI's most wanted list, Khalil Tatum was considered armed and dangerous. Relisha had been missing for nearly a month, and Andrea Tatum had been dead for 2 weeks when a horrific discovery was made in Kenilworth Park. At approximately 12:30 p.m. on April 1st, 2014, the body of a 51-year-old Khalil Tatum was discovered in Kenilworth Park and Aquatic Gardens. He died from a self-inflicted gun wound, and it had been determined his body was there for about 72 hours. Relisha Rudd was still missing. While not currently a suspect in the case, many have pointed to Relisha's mother and stepfather as being involved with her disappearance, as they were the ones who allowed Relisha to reside and be alone with a much older man from outside of the family. The various explanations Shamika Young has given for Relisha's disappearance, the fake doctor's note given by Relisha's grandmother, and the fact nobody in the family reported Relisha as missing has only served to cast a shadow of doubt over the family, Shamika Young in particular. The video of Relisha posted on Shamika's Instagram account was posted on the same day that Relisha was last seen with Tatum at the Days Inn, and just days after Relisha stopped appearing in school, her stepfather, Antonia Wheeler, posted photos of himself on Facebook with a stack of cash in his mouth and a pair of Air Jordan sneakers, this particular pair being valued at $170 to $200 around that time. In 2017, Antonia Wheeler and Shamika Young appeared as a guest on the Steve Wilkos Show. Antonio requested it as he wanted to clear his name publicly by taking a lie detector test. He was asked 3 questions. 1. Did he have any involvement in Relisha's disappearance? 2. Did he ever sexually abuse Relisha? And 3. Has he ever physically abused or left marks on any of his children? To all 3 questions, he answered no, and the test determined Antonio was telling the truth. Strangely enough, Shamika agreed to appear on the show, but refused to take the same test. According to her, the police investigated her first and found nothing, therefore they couldn't be doubted. She goes on to say she only appeared on the show so Antonio could prove himself to her, but both Steve and Antonio go on to tell Shamika that she could still go to jail for her involvement in Relisha's disappearance, with Steve making it clear that he believed she was involved. Strange as it may be, the investigation appears to have come to a slow for now. Several age-enhanced photos of Relisha have been published by investigators, and anyone with information is asked to contact Washington, D.C. police. Relisha would be 14 years old today. Thank you for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next video as we dive into 2 more strange disappearances caught on video. Thanks again, stay safe, and have a great day.